But good to see Sergeant Bilko, Quint Rankid, Degens Konto. Good to see you all. Daylight savings time. Confused about the schedule. Oh, sorry to hear about that. That's one thing, I guess, with Japan not having daylight saving time. That let me quickly make some adjustments on the screen here. But yes, so I didn't actually realize that it changed. Is this for Southern Hemisphere or Northern Hemisphere? I guess it's going into Southern Hemisphere, so you must be in Australia, or I don't know. But anyway, yes indeed. Same bat time, same bat channel right now, 10:40. I've been in Singapore working all of this week, so I haven't really been very well in touch with what's been going on in Japan. I haven't been that active. I don't have a lot of news. I left on Tuesday, which was the day of the Emperor's coronation, which I guess I'll talk about. Hey, Tech Art 2, good to see you. So I don't have a lot of topics, and to tell the truth as well, I got in at got home at 2 a.m. last night. So I didn't really sleep very much. So I guess I've got topics. I'll talk about the rugby a little bit, since we've just had both the semi-finals, 1 week to go for the Rugby World Cup, which I think has been hugely successful and great to follow in Japan. A bit of news, couple of things that are going on at the moment, this and that, but oh, look at that, against Konto, you're in Sweden, and the EU is considering removing summer time. I did not realize that. That's funny that you'd have summertime even. But I get it, you're finishing summertime, so that kind of makes sense. Hey, the J-Vlog, good to see you indeed. Boom, 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 salutations. Remember, if you're in the comments, say hello at Mark Mihiko Simon. Because I don't have a lot of topics today, this could go a couple of ways. I could talk for very few topics for a long time, which is kind of fun to do, but there's nothing in there particularly burning right now. It's a couple of interesting things. I could speak on your topics and just make it, it always is, you're always welcome to at Mark Mihiko Simon me in the comments, and I'll just talk about what you want to talk about. Might do some music at the end, and in the end of the day, I'm also probably going to get to sleep early tonight because I'm a bit underslept. So with that, it's been an interesting week. There have been 2 typhoons, although I missed both of them because I was away. Was back in Singapore. It was pretty solid work. I thought about putting out a hey everyone, I'm in Singapore, let's do something, but I ended up being so flat out with work stuff that even on the final day I had to work at the airport. It was just busy, so I didn't get the chance to do that. I did have a good time down there, and I like Singapore. I could probably live there. I'm not sure how I would do living there. I do like Japan obviously a lot, but it's kind of funny. I discovered Kopi Melaka coffee down there, like iced coffee, when I was down there, with toasted cheese sandwiches at this little place near my work, and I was completely addicted. It was really, really good. So we just did a long real estate live last night. It was interesting, says the J-Vlog. What's that about, a long real estate live? Is that like a house hunting live or a video about real estate? Well, I'm kind of curious what that's about. Glad to hear it was interesting. Speaking of interesting, I've got in here that on the flight back from Singapore, on the flight to Singapore, I think I was watching Atlanta and some downloaded Netflix series and so on. On the way back, one I just listened to on radio the result of the New Zealand-England game, so I was a little bit depressed. And I realized that this was a Tarantino movie and it was available and I wanted to watch it, so I watched it, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I won't spoil it. I'm not particularly I'm probably got a general knowledge of the time and the characters involved, and they're all super famous, and the incidents that the movie refers to, of course, is also super famous. So the way that Tarantino treated the events, I will not discuss in detail, but I like the movie. I can't really think of a Tarantino movie I don't like. They're all good and they're all pretty. You know what? Maybe I'll make a controversial statement. Kill Bill. I thought Kill Bill. How long was that? That was 6 hours long. I thought that was indulgent. I thought that there was too much, basically, of. And yes, Mr. Cordychip, I will come to talking about the England-New Zealand match. Which actually, it may surprise you to learn, I haven't seen entirely either. Even when I recorded it at home and I watched the recording of it, I listened to it on the radio, or on internet radio, and when I got here, I knew the result, and I watched it anyway, but then I discovered that I was missing 30 minutes of the second half, so I still haven't seen New Zealand's try even. but I saw enough. And look, New Zealand was outplayed. But yeah, anyway, coming back to this, although I've only got a general knowledge of the stuff going on, and I know that the movie is really made for movie nerds like Tarantino himself, and there's all sorts of references and all sorts of stuff, as there always is, that probably go way deeper than I understood, even with my shallow level of understanding. Yeah, I really liked this movie. I don't like Kill Bill. 6 hours is too long. I love True Romance. I love Django Unchained. I love Pulp Fiction. Is one of my favorite movies ever. One of my most memorable movie watching experiences ever was watching Pulp Fiction in a special preview screening at a movie theater, where I was given by the movie theater manager who lived in the apartment next to me. She gave me preview, like for review purposes, tickets, where they just needed to fill up the rest of the theater, and so they needed to fill up the crap seat. So she gave me the front center seat in the front row. It needed to be filled up, and she gave me and my flatmate those tickets. And I sat there knowing nothing about the movie. There'd been no international press. This was the pre-launch, and I just heard from the movie theater, from the manager. I'd never seen a Tarantino movie before. In fact, I only vaguely knew who he was at the time. I didn't know anything about the movie. I just sat in the front row. I think I got some free movie tickets for some movie that there was a bit of a buzz about, but no one knew what it was about. And I sat there just like with my neck cricked up at the screen, because I was in the most difficult to watch seat on a massive screen. It was a big movie theater. It wasn't a little. It was one of the main movie theaters in central Auckland. And just remember being shell-shocked by this movie. I'd never seen anything like it. Yes, but that said, thank you, the J-Vlog. Yeah, Kill Bill sucked. It was just, him going too far without accountability, if you ask me. But there again, I mean, even the Hateful Eight, I liked. I like Jackie Brown. Well, it wasn't so memorable, but but I'd say this is one of the better ones. Tiki Sam, I tried, but I just can't help it. It's something I do what I can to suppress it. I try not to be, but it just happens. The sexy, it just comes out. And you know all about that, right? It's a battle. Every day is a battle. What can I say? So yeah, the J-Vlog asking, did I get to visit the Botanical Garden in Singapore? The answer is no, I did not. Not at this time. I've been there before and it's lovely, but did not go there. Mark Varney, how important was England's V formation versus the New Zealand haka? I don't think it was, but I question how influential the haka is, like in terms of the game. Some people talk about how it sometimes serves to motivate one team or the other, and it can set up great games, like the Irish game from a few years ago. I thought that what clearly happened in that game was that England was prepared for that game, and clearly they'd been prepared for years for that game. They were confident, and they wanted to make a statement. They figured out actually a pretty respectful and good way to make the statement. And New Zealand didn't have an answer. I don't think that the haka itself had an impact, or the way that the British sort of responded to the haka. But I think it was indicative of how they were prepared for the game, and New Zealand wasn't, or not relatively. And this is really, I've said this multiple times before. What sucks about being a New Zealand rugby fan is that essentially New Zealand is generally always the top team in the world, which means that we're forced to kind of maintain our high standards without being forced, without being an underdog or having a target. We have to sort of keep ourselves up there when everyone else is targeting us, which means that everyone expects New Zealand to win every game, as do all New Zealanders, which means it's either crushingly depressing when we lose, or it's just relief. There's no joy. The English had joy, and deservedly so. They played really, really well. They shut us out. And this also sort of brought back a highlight for me as well, which is that the thing about rugby is that I've talked before about beautiful rugby and boring rugby, and I think what South Africa and England, who I consider to be exemplars of boring rugby, have kind of proven, even against New Zealand, is that in the end of the day, what rugby is it's about the basic stuff first. It's about winning your line-outs, it's about winning the scrums, it's about making your tackles. And if you're making tackles where you're always knocking the other person back, or if you're making your runs and you're always pushing forward, whenever you've got that sort of physical, that fundamentals, that sort of fundamental sort of base, frankly, if you've got that, if you're physically asserting over the other team, what you do after that is a matter of style and culture. And New Zealand throws the ball around, Australia throws the ball around, Japan throws the ball around like crazy, England and South Africa tend to, keep it fairly tight and just run straight lines and go by the numbers. But if they're doing everything else well and they're matching up, then New Zealand won't get to play this game and England will get to play theirs. And they played it at such ferocious speed. It looked good, even though they were being relatively, as Eddie Jones is, he's got a systematic way of playing, not as chaotic as the New Zealand style. But he did great. Hey, Odie Jr., good freaking morning to you too. So congrats to them, and it just showed that the game, complete contrast. By the way, the Wales England, the Wales South Africa game that I just watched. South Africa's played some good rugby this tournament. That was a boring, horrible, slow game. That was horrible. That was actually something I would not want anyone who's not familiar with rugby to watch, because they'll think the sport sucks, and that's the problem. You can have really boring, unentertaining rugby games. But I think it's the right teams in the final, and it's the right teams in the third, fourth playoff match. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, what else we got there? Degens Konto. Any news regarding Shibuya, Halloween in Shibuya this year? Yeah, there is some news. There's going to be a big no drinking zone, basically from where Sendagai starts, of course from Hachiko and Hachiko Dogenzaka, and sort of all the way back through that sort of Sendagai street. So all that area is going to be basically a dry zone. It looks like there will still be lots of cosplaying, and I'm sure there'll be people. And when I say a dry zone, there won't be people selling alcohol in that area. Convenience stores are not going to sell. Of course, there's going to be lots of drunk people walking into that area, and I don't know exactly what the goal of it all is. But there'll be restrictions, and it will be interesting to see how it goes. I think it's great to have a big party and a big event like that, but at the same time, people have done stupid things in previous years. The Yamanote Line parties, which basically are at the expense of regular people that's having fun, and this is the problem. This is what I don't like about when you have foreign tourists who are sort of on tour and enjoying being free from at home and feeling like you can act wild and crazy, is that everyone else is trying to live their lives, right? So when you're using the train to do conga lines and stuff like that, it can be fun for the people, and it can be like an experience, but it might not necessarily be fun for the people on the train. You got to be careful about that sort of thing. So we'll see how it goes this time. I see Sam sharing a lot about watching movies there, which I will not get into. Yes, remember, if you're in the comments, say ping me, say at Mark equals I'm hello, and I will say hello back to you. So yeah, what do we got here? This was a new story that I saw. So apparently, apart from just the crush of tourists in Kyoto, like Japan's tourism strategy being too successful. Hey, Waito-san, good to see you. Apart from the strategy of attracting too many tourists to Japan being too wildly successful. Hey, Bold Billets boy, good to see you. Now there are particular parts of Kyoto, for example, the Gion area, which is where you may occasionally see Maiko or real-life geisha sort of walking around in the narrow streets between the sort of traditional geisha places or Maiko places. Apparently foreigners have been like grabbing these people and forcefully taking selfies and photos and stuff like that, and apart from being disruptive to the people who are actually living and working there, and kind of scary and not cool. It's basically the Shopkeepers Association. These are private streets, not public streets, and they've put up signs, and they're going to be apparently enforcing 10,000 yen fines for anyone taking photos around there. Some people have pointed out in the coverage that some might take it as a $10,000 yen fee to take all the photos that you like, which would probably be a mistake. But Tomei Samurai Wales didn't lose. They didn't even play. I mean, how they got to me, the fact that they got so close to South Africa just shows how badly South Africa played. So don't worry, Wales is still playing New Zealand next week. So commiserations, but you'll be in the third, fourth playoff on Friday with New Zealand, and given how badly Wales played against France, they didn't deserve to be in the semi-final in the first place, and they did nothing, and they got really close to actually getting the semi-final win, which would have been ridiculous, but South Africa was playing badly too. So I think they'll do fine. They'll do fine in the third, fourth playoff. Anyway, so I don't know if any of you are bothered by this. I kind of get it, but in the end of the day, I think there needs to be a bigger conversation about how how Kyoto deals with tourists altogether. It's of course a big part of the economy down there, but at the same time it's kind of incompatible with the way that they think and do things. So yeah, we'll see about that. And this I thought was super cool. I'm going to come back to this last. Maybe we'll talk about the enthronement ceremony. In fact, probably going reverse order makes sense for this. So if you want to book a bullet train, apparently you're going to be able to do that from overseas pretty soon, so that'll be pretty cool. The new emperor became the new emperor. He's already practicing as a new emperor, but they did the big ceremony. That was a thing that happened. Apparently there were some Christian groups that complained that doesn't this constitute the state funding the enthronement ceremony? Doesn't it constitute a violation of the separation of church and state? Two thoughts on that. First of all, remember, this was the separation of church and state is a U.S. imposed thing. Yet America doesn't have a monarch. Nearly every country that has a monarchy, the monarchy has some quasi-religious role. Think about Britain. State institutions have to be secular, but the monarchy is the defender of the Church of England. And of course they do the enthronement, I believe, in it. Royal weddings are in churches and so on. I mean, there are state-oriented religious things in the UK. No one really cares. This is the same thing. I don't think it's anything like a revival of state Shinto. Frankly, also the other thing is that participatory Christianity in Japan is pretty low level, low key, at least compared to places like Korea now. In fact, a lot of the Christian churches in Japan are have a large number of foreigners, and maybe it's those elements that are more sensitive to the idea of the government endorsing the emperor. But I don't see a big deal or issue with it. I'm curious if anybody here thinks there's an issue with the Japanese government funding the enthronement ceremony for the head of state, which still happens to be based on Shinto, which by some measures isn't really a serious. I mean, I know that there was the World War II thing where it was pushed as a formal state religion, but I don't see it was really being a big deal. Personally. Hey, Tai Nakamura, good to see you, sir. What does with the new emperor, does that mean there will be a new year time? That is correct. I believe that. So this year is still Heisei 22, and I think next year, have they announced it yet? Reiwa. In fact, right now is Reiwa. I think next year is Reiwa 1. Right now is Reiwa Gannen, I think, at the moment. So yeah, that's right. Reiwa 1 starts next year, which is again, for IT systems and government calendars, it messes everything up. Yes, there will indeed be a new calendar starting from next year for Japan. I guess 1, that's a number that's easy to count. Braskafarian, I think you might be right that it has started already. It started, but I think they're counting this year's year 0, Gannen. But yeah. Good point, the J-Vlog. Well, of course, Nagasaki and even other parts of Kyushu are kind of well known for being relatively Christian. Also, the other thing that's very important to point out is that Japanese tend to be very private with their personal religious matters. You might know a bunch of people. Well, if they think that you might be Christian, they might come and approach you. But honestly, in all my time here, I've not had really even much of a sense that there are many Christian people. Just as if you go to UK or America, I mean, in terms of people who are self-professing religious people, they're pretty rare to run into, I think, anywhere nowadays. But they were never that numerous to begin with in Japan. But sure, Nagasaki, I could definitely see that. So Reiwa began on May 1, 2019, but I think that means that this year is still Gannen, right? It's still 0, and next year is Reiwa 1. Or is next year Reiwa 2? There's something for people to Google. I'm curious about that myself. Is next year Reiwa 2 or Reiwa 1? I think this year is Reiwa 0 and or Heisei 22. And most people would write it Heisei 22. So yeah, that was a thing that happened. I keep going past this. Someone took this photo of me. I went to a work karaoke thing, and there was like this wig in the place. And I'd had a lot of whiskey, which I don't normally drink, and I was actually normally I'm extremely awkward being photographed, but I was kind of relaxed, as you could see, and I thought the photo actually came out really cool. It was in a dark room, and it was taken with a brand new iPhone. I mean, it made me want to get the camera. It was just like it lit up better than I could see. So yeah, okay, so it's Reiwa Run right now. I did not realize that. So yeah, I thought that was kind of fun. In terms, coming back to the Rugby World Cup quickly, someone did the Anchorman sort of fight scene done with all each rugby team. sort of coming up there. And that's a good point as well to the England fans and to the Japanese fans, actually. I think Japanese fans who know rugby all love the All Blacks. It's true. It used to drive my South African friends crazy. The Japanese were such sort of fawning fans of the All Blacks. And not other countries. Like, they sort of hold All Blacks up as like the ideal sort of rugby team here, which is kind of, as a New Zealander, it's kind of cool to have. But that said, Japan of course didn't get through, so that was something that they didn't have. But if there's a Japan connection anywhere, it's the fact that the coach of the England team is of course half Japanese. His mother is Japanese, and he's coached Suntory, the top Japanese rugby team. He's lived in Japan for many years. He used to coach the Japanese rugby team. He also coached the Australian rugby team, and he's actually coached, now this will be his third Rugby World Cup final, and he's won 2 of them. No, 3 in the past. I think this is his 4th. And he's had a great record. So I think Eddie Jones has proven himself to be the best, or at least the most successful Australian coach in the world, as opposed to the Australian coach, which kind of shows. I mean, the politics down there is pretty brutal, but he's done a good job. He's a bit of a character for his personality there, but I think you can see what he's done with England. I mean, England don't look like England, and it's been a really long-term thing built up. So Nighttime World. Do I still do 2.5 voyages? I'm open to it. It's like Victor and I have just settled into life where it's if or when we do it, we do it on Saturdays. If I do it, it means I'm doing live shows 2 days, both days in a weekend. And sometimes I like to actually rest on the weekends. So we don't do it regularly anymore. We've both talked about, and actually, we've both been busy with life, and I haven't talked that much to Victor lately. We've been in touch, but I haven't talked to him recently. Whenever we talk, we say, we should just do one, just a random one. I think we'll do a random one again soon. But yes, it's just not right now. I did find trying to do my own show and doing a show with him, like two live 1-hour shows a week. With everything else, it's kind of hard. It felt hard to sustain. It made me feel like I wasn't able to do other things or just get time to, like, for example, on the weekends. That's the only time I can, for example, watch something on Netflix or watch a movie or something like that. So that's kind of partly why, the whole thing about this doing online. Yes, it is, Tico said. But the whole part of this has got to be fun. If it feels like too much of a drag, you've got to do what you can sustain when you're not, when you're at your busiest and most stressed out. And I've been really busy lately, and I'm still able to do this, and this is fun, and I look forward to this. But if it gets to be so much that you don't look forward to doing it, then you got to look at how you're doing it. I think both of us just got, Victor's still doing a whole bunch of videos every week, and we got a good rhythm. So going. I've got a good rhythm going with this. So I agree. I think we should do some more 2.5 voyages, and Victor and I both agree that we should do it. We just haven't done it lately. So we do that. And Diggins Contour, a monthly 2.5 voyages or just a podcast. You know what? I kind of agree. And even just recording like a podcast would actually be kind of fun. It's weird to me that it's so much harder to create a podcast than it is to create a YouTube video. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's the same electronic file, except one is enormous and it's got video, and one is just sound. And yet to do a hosted podcast, you've basically got to pay to host it somewhere. And the editing and everything is, Steve Miller, good to see you, sir. Wow, salutations. Actually, we've got quite a great crowd in here tonight, actually, just looking at everybody there in the comments. Great to see everyone here. Thank you for the request, actually, and it's a good reminder to me to stop being so lazy and stressed out and wrapped up in my life. I do have some news. I was actually interviewed for a podcast this morning. It was actually quite a lot of fun. I went to a studio for a series being set up by Non-Native Creative. I think those of you who know Arisha in Tokyo, who does like the English Pod 101 stuff, as well as a bunch of creative stuff. She's setting up just a series of interviews with creators, and the 2 of us got interviewed today. And that was actually super fun, and I think that's coming out towards the end of the year, so look out for more information about that. But the stuff that her project, I know she's been setting it up for a long time, and it's easy to be, just sit down and talk. It was easy being interviewed. It actually made me realize what it's like to do this sort of thing with someone who's prepared and organized, so that was kind of fun. Hey, Shubas, buenos dias. Good to see you, Shubas from Panama. And Ninjaru88, good to see you. Well, good to see everyone coming in, and don't forget to say hello if you're checking into the chat. Always good to see. There's stuff going on, and indeed, Victor and I have not been in touch enough, so we should do. Thank you. I agree. The idea of a monthly 2.5 voyages, I think, is something that we should do, and we will get into that. Waito-san, yes indeed, that is right there. That is Steve Miller from, as well as the fact he's got like the most amazing podcast and vlog series. Now, of course, he not only works for, but if you ask me, he is the voice of America, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So yes, good to see that there's someone who recognizes that, the voice of America stuff. Mark Artino, I don't know how the if that's the correct pronunciation, if I should say Hartino or Artino, but good to see you. And so many podcasts and no iPods. Yeah, indeed. I mean, I don't understand why it's so much harder. In fact, I wish that YouTube had a feature that you could just like click something and make your YouTube videos available as podcasts. I mean, why not do that? Just do audio only versions. I realize why it's that the ads aren't visible that way. But I don't know, it'd be very, very cool. Sunny day in Panama. Good to hear it's a sunny day in Panama. I get an image like it's always a sunny day in Panama. That's just the image that I have. I'd love to visit there one day. But yes, so that is the thing that is happening. Against Konto, it'd be super interesting to see a collab with the old guys like you, Victor, and new style vloggers such as Chris Broad or Tokyo Creative. That's an interesting one. Well, since I don't have a lot of topics tonight, we can discuss that for a moment. Chris Broad, I respect enormously. And honestly, Chris Broad, if you ask me, old style vloggers like myself and Victor, more so Victor than me, well, actually flip that round, reverse it, more so me than him. Victor's always been close to sort of someone who's been professionally committed. He actually, he makes a living wage off his efforts on online creativity, which I don't do. For me, it really is a pure hobby, and it's always doing things around, the constraints of the rest of my life. But people like Chris Broad, to me, he's like a rock star. He's someone who's actually professionally, successfully, in a big way, succeeding off this. So to me, it's like, I actually see him within this world. I mean, I don't see him as being like a movie star, for example, but within this world, he's something close to that. So yeah, I've met him, and I think he's a really super interesting guy. But I'm on such a, and I'm not saying this, in like an overly I'm not worthy kind of a way, but I'm on such a different level to that guy. I almost wonder what I'd talk about. Now, I'd rather talk about people in the same zone as me. I mean, he's someone who's just like deep, fully, and he's way beyond anywhere as far as I've ever gone and this sort of thing. But yeah, I admit it would be kind of cool to sit down and talk with him, and it would probably be cool to sit down and record talking with him. But I get the feeling, at least doing all this sort of stuff, he's got a lot more insight than I'd have to offer. Tokyo Creative I find interesting as well. I've had some chats with Chris, like just sort of casual ones, I think, at events where we've been in the same place. I respect what he is doing, but it's pretty far removed from what I'm interested in doing, even though I recognize what he's doing takes a lot more effort and commitment. It's in the same direction as Chris. In fact, that whole Tokyo Creative project seems to be kind of morphing and changing a lot as well. It started out being about supporting and being kind of like a network of, a framework for supporting creators like Chris Broad. Lately, of course, he's producing a lot of content for and about himself, which to me is actually like not as cool. I mean, to be frank, it's good content and it's better content than I make, and it's all professionally made and good on him. But I think it's cooler, if you ask me, to be the studio exec sort of running it and sticking to the ideal that he had in the beginning, of being a genuine for creators. Like so many of these multi-channel networks are just there to screw creators, honestly. But being a genuine for creators creator network, I thought that was interesting. But there again, he's aggregated a lot of knowledge and he's applying it to his own content now, which is fine. But again, I don't know that he'd find a lot to talk about with me, or that I'd find a lot to talk about with him. We're just doing very different things. But yeah, it's kind of, I mean, next time if I meet the guy again, I agree, it might be interesting to record the conversation. You'd love an Asian Newscast podcast with Steve and Hiko. Well, we've done them in the past. We used to do them. What's Up Asia? What is it? Was it What's Up Asia? We used to do it. And they were good, and it was actually really cool. But obviously now he's under contract with VOA, and I don't think he's free to do that sort of thing with me anymore. I would love if the day comes along that we can do them again, or even just to get you on as a guest on something, which I'm sure there are ways of doing that. But Steve Miller, he's It's a different sort of I'm not worthy. I mean, he is actually the shit now, right? And I think it's just it's a fantastic reward that he got recognized from his podcast work for doing something, that's in professional broadcasting. And professional broadcasting, not on a stupid, better than commercial broadcasting. What he's doing, you actually use your brain cells. No stupid just talking heads. People actually know their shit, research their shit, come in and talk about it on VOA, and it's awesome what he does. So I would love to talk with him about that sort of thing. But yeah, life is life. Da-da-da-da. Hope it's a great song. Oh, I should look that one up. I'm not sure it rings a bell, but yes. But Shubhas, yeah, John Dolb, I'll check that one out. Chris Broad is a fantastic channel, I agree. We've got more experience in Japan than they've been alive. I think there might be something to exchange there. I think there might privately be something to exchange in terms of ideas. But there again, honestly, I find them inspiring. And this is kind of the big joke. When I started out as a creator, I was giving advice to people, and I had good advice to give. But nowadays, I find that people who are popping up as creators now have stuff figured out from the get-go better than I've ever had it figured out. In fact, they've been doing it 6 months, and I want to ask them stuff. I would love to talk to Chris Broad, but yes, if he ever humbles me by giving me the time, I think that'd be cool. But I guess it might be interesting to see. TKO Sam, I have no idea what you're talking about, and given the usernames, I'm so glad that I don't, and I'm sure I don't care, just from that. But thank you for asking. Some other topics that we've got. It is funny how I do manage to fill up the time here pretty easily. So bullet train tickets online, the Emperor, me looking like Goku. We've got how much does a foreign engineer make in Japan? Good question. I've been a foreign IT engineer, and I work in a company with a lot of foreign IT engineers, even though I'm no longer one myself at the moment. And it's kind of funny, the numbers here are lower than what I thought they would be, but they're still pretty good. Generally speaking, you'll make, if you've got an IT engineering qualification, you'll make around 25%, 20% more than you make teaching English. So it's worth getting, just for the extra job prospects and the extra money you can make, it's worth getting them. So apparently the average wage is 4.6 million, as opposed to 3.3 million if you're an English teacher. Also remember that's an average wage, which means that it's going to be higher in Tokyo and lower outside of Tokyo. And I think I'd be really shocked if you got a job, at least in anything that was like cloud related or advanced digital, that was like less than 5 million. And honestly, if you're like an AI engineer, or sort of enterprise, solution architect, you should be getting like US dollars 6 figures easily here. In fact, you'd arguably make more in the US still. But yeah, if you're interested in those sort of jobs, as people point out here, there's such a shortage of people with these sort of qualifications. In fact, there you go. The Tokyo average is actually 6.1 million. But certainly if you're an IT engineer, the opportunities out there are pretty much limitless right now. And there you go, AI engineer, blockchain engineer, and it's kind of funny, I didn't actually realize this. I've heard of companies hiring like 10 million for AI engineers, robot engineer, pretty good paying jobs. So remember, it's not just English teaching out here, although of course this does require qualification, as most other jobs do, but it would be worth considering particularly if you're an American, you want to come to Japan, you want to get a good job out here. It's worth, probably if you're in college, it's worth doing a few IT papers. I tell you what, even if it's not your thing, just getting any kind of familiarity to be able to do this sort of job is probably good. And I was an engineer. I became an IT engineer with no educational background for it. I was trained on the job here, and I went from sucking at it to becoming mediocre at it. I became okay in time, although I also decided it wasn't something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Hey, Olivia D, good to see you. But look, moral of the story is that jobs are easy to find and they're well paying, apparently. Gaijinpot.com, there's a lot of detailed information on it, so worth looking it up. And I'm sure they'll have information there on how to connect to those jobs. I'm not so connected into that right now. But it's actually good to know that it's a good way to make relatively easy money doing good work in Japan. So the final topic, or maybe second to final topic that I have, this is the final topic, and this was just really cool. It's on Gizmodo and it's super big, but it's talking about the most futuristic developments we can expect in the next 10 years. And I like to think about this stuff and talk about this stuff quite a lot. So I'm going to put this in. And remember, if you've got any topics for me, Tech Art 2, that's exactly what you need to become. You need to become an enterprise. In fact, literally, I mean, I can actually think, I actually work with the combination of all of those things. Literally an enterprise AI robot engineer. Yes, I actually specifically know cases of that. And I'd say it's a pretty good way to cover all your bases. And it should run on blockchain, which will probably slow it down. Blockchain to me is just sort of stupid right now, other than the cryptocurrency applications, which seems to be just a really good way to launder money. But, you know, I'm sure it'll make sense, more sense in time. But no, Tech Art 2, you are exactly correct. I could talk more about it, but I'd give away where I work. But that's exactly what you should be doing. Gizmodo, it still is alive. I used to subscribe to Engadget and Gizmodo, but they overlap like a lot, and it just means double the amount of feed stuff. So I stopped. I cut out Engadget because I like these sort of stories, and Gizmodo sort of, you know, has the whole sort of network of affiliated blogs that they go to. It's not quite as inflammatory as it used to be, but yes, indeed. So in terms of the trends that it talks about, first of all, of course, it talks about the artificial intelligence and robotics sort of revolution that's coming, and specifically going down into it in the way that it's going to actually lead to a net increase in jobs, but there'll be a lot of jobs, of course, disappear at the same time. So yes, the first thing that they talk about, which I've talked about on the show, not recently, but I've talked about it a lot, is how conceptually, when you have cars or vehicles that can basically drive you around on their own, the idea that there'll be fleets of these cars that can be configured for different purposes, that will come and pick you up when you need it, that'll be able to drive around, they won't need traffic lights, they won't ever be stuck in traffic jams, and that can get you where you need to go, whether it be, you know, to me, it's obvious that this is going to fundamentally transform society. And frankly, it's obvious to all the car manufacturers who are working on doing this and making this happen within years, you know, within a short number of years, even though that many aspects of the technology of AI-based self-driving cars is still too far away. You know, it's not right. On the one hand, it's not right around the corner that, you know, people are pushing for it, but it still is very, very hard to do. The competition to do it and the speed with which, at the moment, artificial intelligence and related self-driving technologies like IoT and so on are advancing. Yeah, and like I've said before, the idea that if I feel like going to the beach, I'm just going to get an app. I'm going to say, get me a car that's got enough for my surfboard and my kit that's got that I can sleep in. And there'll be a van or something that'll come along. I'll toss my surfboard into it. I'll get in it at night. I'll sleep in it while it drives me slowly and efficiently to whatever surf spot I want to go to, which might be 5 hours away. I won't care because I'll be asleep, and I'll wake up, 6 a.m. at the beach that I want to be. I'll get out. I'll get my surfboard. I'll go surfing. I'll have dinner in the car on the way back. If you think about it, any business trip that you want to do, you'll be able to just work and sleep in the vehicle and show up at exactly the time that you want to show up. It'll cut down on air travel, all sorts of stuff. In fact, I believe there'll be people who live in these sorts of things. So I think that's a really, really big one. And there are predictors here who are saying that within the 2020s, it's going to be a defining aspect of the way that transportation is going to change. It's going to change, and that's what I'm waiting for, and I'm hoping will become the case. Deep fakes, people hacking, and scary tech. Again, this kind of thing about the ability to just create. Well, from this perspective, it's kind of cool, the idea that I could create a better looking version of myself. I could record this and maybe in real time, put on Brad Pitt's face, if that's what you'd all prefer to look at, make myself more popular, I don't know, improve my voice and my appearance seamlessly in a way that people can, the way that people at the moment have the AI idols, the virtual idols, where they sort of, and sometimes they turn their face too fast and all of a sudden you see an old man instead of an animated woman. Well, it's probably going to change, and it's probably going to be possible to do that with anybody, and I suppose there's scary stuff with that, but that's another aspect of technology that's already racing ahead and is going to have to be dealt with. Indeed, superintelligence. If you know what superintelligence is, advanced general intelligence and superintelligence. Superintelligence is when the machines can teach themselves, and theoretically, like the ability to process and so on will become basically exponential. It'll explode. And this is what all these science fiction books, as soon as they became sort of aware of superintelligence being a likely outcome, and this is, you remember the integrated circuit, I think it was from the 1920s or 1930s, and within 30 years people were able to realize, this could logically end up as superintelligence, as machines that can teach themselves and become far, far, far smarter than people. And then all people have been, science fiction writers have been speculating since the 1950s when that time happens. I mean, the movie Blade Runner is about this. All of these sort of movies, Aliens is about this to some extent. It's all about, so what will happen when the machines realize that they don't need us and they don't need to serve us anymore, and they're going to be smarter than us, and how are we going to deal with that? And is that a threat to us? And I think there's going to be a really cool time with superintelligence that at least, like any problem you can think of, you're going to have the capability at least to figure out and think of an answer to. And if you properly focus, things like sustainable energy, things like climate change, things like really, really hard problems, how to have a prosperous society that doesn't have boom bust cycles, all this sort of thing. But of course, such technology could be used for military purposes, for weaponization. And again, you've got the Skynet scenario from Terminator, is based on a superintelligence. I mean, that's an example of a dystopian superintelligence. This is all going to happen. Or it's starting to happen. I mean, China's like charging for it first, and there is a theory again that the Skynet thing, the moment that the first country to develop and own the first super intelligent AI is going to be able to use that to suppress everybody else and dominate the world, and the race is very much on for that right now. And I don't know if that's going to happen in the next 10 years, but it's certainly, you're going to see you're not only going to see direct AI like the speaker behind me and stuff like that becoming more and more intelligent, like standout intelligent, like computers more and more being like people in the next 10 years. But yeah, we're probably going to hit a point that it's going to be kind of crazy around that, and it's going to all the things that we're seeing in terms of self-driving cars, probably flying cars, probably infinite energy sources like based on being from space or whatever, or space technology. It's all going to go crazy, and it's accelerating, and you can see it happening, and it's going to keep accelerating, and it's going to be driven by this. And I think that that's super cool. Even though, of course, yes, there is a question whether it will perhaps destroy us, as that quote up there is going. What else have they got in here? Hacking the planet. Well, this is what I'm talking about as well. When you have superintelligence and you can actually reliably model and create predictive models and solutions, costed solutions for being able to fix big problems like weather control, climate change, and so on. You're going to see people trying to do things like that. And again, it might very well be going all matrix, the superintelligence itself controlling the environment for its own purposes. But yeah, certainly at least while we're under control of it, we're going to use it for our own purposes. And yeah, we're probably going to see again, not just technologies around energy and economics, but sure, you're going to see probably geoengineering, the ability to actually change the planet, change a lot. Biotechnology, again, this is, if you talk about something that's cool about superintelligence or really advanced AI, the ability to find medicines and treatments for any medical issue, right? The sort of Elysium type, being able to, create whatever sort of body that you'd like, to be able to create and edit your own DNA and the DNA of your kids. Scary stuff, but again, the base technology is now pretty much established. So, diseases being treated through custom DNA manipulation. Again, that stuff is already starting. We've already figured out how to create and manipulate stem cells, and that's going to go into all sorts of stuff. I might even get hair out of this shit. I mean, who knows? Not that I feel like I need it. I'm quite comfortable, actually. But, and then you think about, so what's going to happen from that in terms of life expectancy? I mean, pretty much we are probably people my age and younger, maybe younger than me. Maybe I'm not going to get the full benefit of it. But, yeah, you're going to get people who are going to, at least provided that the computers don't kill us, we're going to be able to at least medically live longer than humans have ever been able to live before. That's pretty cool. Our view of space and going again, I think with things accelerating so fast, and it was always my dream as a kid to get into space, and I always thought I had to become an astrophysicist and join NASA, become an American citizen, and go and join the US space program, and I thought that's how you get into space as a kid. And I know that stuff is now right now. All of these private companies that are pushing for moving into space and setting up an economic basis for staying there, now moving ahead so quickly, I'm very optimistic that like before I'm 60, that I'll be able to go up there as a tourist in the same way that I might go to the Maldives or something. Like, it'll be an expensive but doable vacation, and something that I fully intend to do. So I think that'll be super cool. So yeah, the first 200-year-old might have been born already, which again is crazy, but I very much like the idea that if we can extend the way that if we can, I do feel like, and I was talking about this today, for all time it's been possible to collaborate. For example, making music, whatever, but you could from when you could handwrite music, you could you could co-write orchestras or whatever for hundreds of years. It became easier with sort of telephones, and that kind of communications technology became much easier with the internet, where people share files. It can actually work pretty seamlessly now, and it's very common for people to work from remote locations more or less in real time. And I was talking about, though, that I think that a lot of aspects of joint thinking and collaboration and creativity are going to become more like playing something like a game of Fortnite or Apex or whatever. It's going to be like, it'll actually be more comfortable and more achievable in virtual spaces designed to foster that collaboration than it is going to be to actually go over to someone's house. Like right now, my kids into Fortnite, and all the kids will come over and they'll sit in the same room getting on the same team, and they might hook up. It's actually probably more hassle to go to someone's house and to hook up on the same Wi-Fi and to get connected and to invite it. It's actually easier to sit in your own home right now and connect with your friends, be online at the same time, and meet in the virtual space than it is to get into the same physical space. It actually slows things down. And you can do whatever you want in the virtual world. And I think in terms of this sort of thing, in terms of things like 2.5 Voyages and things that all kinds of I think economic activity in the virtual world, like genuine creative pursuits and so on, outside of just having software that you just use as a tool for what you're doing in the real world, but actually going in and working entirely in virtual environments, that's already going to jump ahead actually, and I think it's going to completely transform the sort of content that you see here on YouTube. And I think that if we're going to become 200-year-old people, where again our minds are just going to be more important than our bodies, I think it's going to extend our productivity, which we should be. Quentin Rankid I see saying liability. Well, don't worry everybody, I'm a lawyer. No, that doesn't help at all. I can tell you, if someone said that, I would actually give up at that point. But again, it also excites me, the idea that there's so many things that I want to do, and those things that I want to do that I don't have the time or capacity for, I think are going to be easy to do. I'm going to be able to do more collaborative stuff, like with you guys, for example. And I'm going to be able to do it for longer, and we're going to be able to get more stuff done. I mean, to me, what I love about Black Mirror, the idea of being able to copy your whole personality and create a little virtual program, a simulation of yourself that you can just have focusing on different things that you want to do but don't have the time. Well, with all the ethical problems that Black Mirror explains about that sort of thing, but for me, getting into that sort of a world, that is close. That's really close right now. People are still establishing the fundamental technologies, but Quentin Rankid, indeed. I mean, I'm working hard to replace myself. I mean, and this is why I am absolutely, the way I look at my role is I don't think there's much future in being a specialist lawyer at all, actually. And again, that's one reason I'm not in a law firm. I'm in-house because I'm actually part of a business that's involved in developing these technologies, and I've got a seat at the table on the business decisions, and I'm valued for the perspective that I bring. But I think if I become the type of in-house lawyer that says, hey, I just do legal stuff and I don't handle business stuff, I'd agree I've got no future. But I don't think anyone can be doing a job. I don't think you can be an IT engineer even, or an AI engineer, and not be interested in the applications of that. I think that's where, at least for a while, the interesting, where it's going to be and where the value is going to be, is coming up with the correct, strategic applications for the technologies, and that's what's really exciting. The creative applications of the technologies. That's where the human value is going to be, at least until we have super intelligent AI that's going to do even that better than us, and then it's going to be questionable what people are needed for it all. But until then, that's where I'm focused on. You can see I'm that sort of a person, so that's all cool. We won't really see much action on all this until legislators can be replaced. Well, I don't know that. Legislators are going to, well, we might see a backlash, and we're already kind of seeing a backlash right now. Both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, are both beating up on tech companies. It's kind of a popular thing to do, and it kind of answers people's fears on it. But in the end of the day, I don't think they're going to be, well, we'll see. I don't know that they're going to be that relevant. They can certainly inhibit it, but then what's the point in inhibiting something which overall is going to have a net overall benefit for society? And that could hand a huge advantage over to competing economies. So yeah, I'm looking at that with interest as well. But that's a thing. And sorry, I went crazy down the science fiction technology route, but it's something which interests me, and I thought this article was a good flashpoint for that. I'm out of topics for tonight. As I said before, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm still recovering from not really having slept properly last night. But let's wait. Let's put that back on. So how about, I don't know, I could do some music. I could take a topic that you guys have. Anything that you like, let me know. You got a topic for me? Music or topic, or wrap it up. I'm cool. I'm definitely going to go straight to sleep after this. Can't wait till we have AI-only freeways. Yeah, I can't wait for that either. I've also always wondered, though, when we have AI-only freeways, there's always going to be some moron who's going to get on there with a fast car and is just going to go and swerve around and mess with the AI cars and make life miserable for the people in those cars. That's inevitable. Someone's going to do that. But I'm wondering how that will be dealt with. But yes, Waito-san, tell me cheap apartment, please. Sure, cheap apartment, please. I kid. Do you want information on cheap apartments? I don't have great info on that, to tell you the truth. And also, I assume you're, as a foreigner, searching cheap apartment. If you want good local cheap apartment info, it's available on all sorts of websites. But most of those cheap apartments that you'll have on regular Japanese real estate websites are for Japanese people first. It's kind of frustrating searching as a foreigner. For foreign apartment places, I'm not really up on it. There are lots of people here, including people like Sam, who I think are more clued in on how to get good affordable accommodation, like within Tokyo. So maybe you've got some of that. But yes, indeed. A musical topic says believe in yourself. Tech too. The computer certifications generally the same for Japan. Yeah, they are right now. In fact, yeah, and they're mostly in English and they're mostly foreign. You're actually at an advantage. There's not, when it's less before it was very Unix oriented and very Japanese language heavy. A lot of the existing legacy technologies here are very established in Japan and very customized. Even SAP or Oracle, stuff like that is very Japanese heavy. However, all the new stuff, all the AI, all the cloud, all that sort of engineering stuff, robotics, definitely very Japanese. But the other forms, the biggest barrier for Japanese getting the certifications, or one of them, is just the fact that most of the materials on it are in English, which gives you guys an advantage. So it's worth looking into. Hiko, when are other countries going to start copying Japan for public transportation? Asked Tiko-san. That's a good question. Well, Japan's already exporting. When China's basically selling Belt and Road and then failing at it, Japan's kind of stepping in places like Indonesia, I believe in Vietnam, recently in Pakistan, and they're actually kind of exporting. Japan quietly exports its trains to UK. I mean, they're selling the trains. They still don't run on time very well because I guess the systems there aren't very good. But yeah, Japan already does it. I guess it will keep going, and I guess with everybody coming here as tourists and coming for the Olympics and the Rugby World Cup, I guess that's going to be an on-sale as well that people are going to see, and probably you're going to get more interest in other countries copying Japan's system, which I think is awesome. But yes, that's a surprisingly normal topic from you, Sam. Thank you for that. Don't want to pay Sanjuman move in fees. Well, dude. Sanjuman, so wait a minute, you pay Rokuman a month in Tokyo, like for most places. Just saying your average that I would think about for a cheap apartment in a reasonable location. You can go into a crappier location and get 4 or 5 months, but you're going to be like basically 6 months in central Tokyo. You're going to have 2 months bond no matter what. You might get out of key money. I mean, you'd be doing really well, but you'd have to assume that's right. 12 for bond, 12 for key money, 24, 1 month for real estate agent fees. So that's 5 months, and then probably another half or whatever for other sort of expense. And then you got the cost of living, which would be another 6. So you got 7 times 6, 42, 42 man. Yeah. So you don't want to pay Sanjuman. Well, again, you can go to shared accommodations which don't have real estate fees, and they don't. You'll only have to pay a bond of up to a month. So there are places you can find that you can get into for less than Sanjuman, but you'll pay more as you go, and you won't have as much privacy. There's a Sakura house type options, for example, that you can get into for less than that. You're right. I mean, it sucks. It's a high barrier to entry to get into a good apartment, but that's how it goes. Can I go way off topic and ask about the article in The Guardian where most people in the UK are okay with political violence? I don't know about that article. I assume it's talking about people who feel like riots would be justified over Brexit or something like that. I've seen news articles on the BBC talking about discourse, increasingly polarised and aggressive discourse in the UK, and I see this everywhere. I think the internet's contributed towards increasing polarisation and lack of tolerance of other viewpoints, including that. So if that sort of story has come out, that's kind of disappointing but not surprising, and a little bit disturbing, which is a shame. But I don't know, I can sort of see it happening, and I don't know what the solution to it is. I do think, like on Brexit, for example, I think Brexit was a stupid decision, but again, a really fundamental part of living in a civilized modern society is accepting that when you have a process like this, when you have referenda, or when you have democratic elections, even if you disagree with the outcome, you have to tolerate and respect the outcomes and be tolerant and respectful for those who you disagree with, and that's falling apart. And and I can see that. I think this is how democracy fails. I think this is how we all end up living in dictatorships, and there'll be dictatorships where half the country is going to be, as happens in all dictatorships. You always get this idea that under the Nazis, or under Franco, or under the dictators in South America, when you hear about all the terrible things that those governments did, you think that this is just a terrible group of power-hungry people imposing their will on everybody. But no, these regimes survive because they're supported often by half of the country, and they're terrible to the half that they're not in. But that in itself becomes how these things are self-sustaining. It becomes, those people, and I could imagine you could set up, let me be clear, you could imagine an anti-Brexit sort of, government in the UK that would be violent and suppressive towards the people who voted for Brexit, for example. And in the belief that you hear rhetorically all the time that, those people are racist shavs who live in the north and they don't know anything about, they're taking away the rights of my kids, and I'm going to fight to protect it and fight to stop them taking those rights away. People talk like this all the time, and it's fundamentally, it's an authoritarian, it's a belief that those people's views are not, people's views are not all the same and of equal value, and I don't have to respect them, and I am entitled to use violence, I guess, and it definitely goes both ways. I mean, needless to say that the BNP and the separatists and so on have always sort of been from a point of view that, power based on expression of power. But the fact that supposedly liberal people are adopting the same extremist positions, frankly, even though they feel, and they feel self-justified by how right they are, and I see so much more of that, it's scary, and again, in Japan, I don't see that shift happening anywhere near as much as I see it happening in Europe and in America, but it's happening, and I really don't understand it, to tell you the truth. I mean, are people that far gone that, and it's disappointing to see it being validated by polls, and I assume that's what that's about, Quint, but I don't know what that's about. So, TQ Sam, how bad is it going to get with the Tokyo Olympics 2020 in Tokyo? I think the Rugby World Cup has proven that the Tokyo Olympics, I think, are going to be successful, and they're going to be really great, and everyone's going to think it was great that we had them when they're here, even though most people in Tokyo didn't support having it in the first place. Sure, the potential for an earthquake, the potential for a typhoon, the potential for a heat wave, the potential for athletes to die because of the weather, all of these risks are risks. I mean, Japan is a natural disaster bowling alley, and of course it was a terrible idea to have the Olympics in the middle of summer here, and that was a flawed part of the bid. I don't think that the kind of knee-jerk reaction of sending it straight to Sapporo without properly consulting with the Tokyo hosts was a good idea. Do I think it's going to be a disaster? No, I think there's a lot of people that wish and hope it's going to be a disaster, but I think, as in with the Rugby World Cup, which I scoffed at when Japan set tourism goals, I scoffed at those. I didn't think Japan was capable of them, and it executed them brilliantly with the Rugby World Cup. I wondered how stodgy, old conservative, and frankly, objectively incompetent organization like the Japanese Rugby Union could possibly host a successful Rugby World Cup. And look, I mean, I think Japan is objectively is still in the process of hosting the most successful Rugby World Cup ever. And I think they're going to do the same with the Olympics. I think they're going to do a really great job of it. Stuff can happen, but it can happen anywhere. So no, I'm an optimist about that, even though I wouldn't have supported Japan, Tokyo bidding for it, especially, as I said all along. All the money that's gone into the construction and the bid for the Tokyo Olympics should have been spent on Fukushima and the Great East Japan, earthquake and tsunami recovery, and all the stuff there. But I thought that was the more pressing agenda at the time that we made the bid. But it's going ahead. I think Japan's going to kick ass at it. I believe that. Digens Konto, considering going to Japan next year, aiming to come before the Olympics. It's going to be tough coming before the Olympics with so many people coming to Tokyo, although I definitely encourage it at any time. I mean, it's great that you're getting over here. So encourage it. I'd also encourage you, just because of that, seriously consider outside of Tokyo. It'd be great to see you in Tokyo, of course, but Tokyo, as I've said before, is very different to the rest of Japan, and I think you're kind of missing out. So many people come to Tokyo and they stay in Tokyo and they don't go anywhere else, and I'm glad I experienced Japan and Fukuoka and Kyushu outside of Tokyo before I settled in Tokyo, because they're different places, and in many ways as a place to visit, the rest of Japan is better than Tokyo. Tokyo is just going on forever. So I'd encourage that, but definitely get over here, and you'll find accommodation is more affordable, and and Japan is just increasingly easy and more accessible for foreigners as well, which I think is also great. Other comments. Bald Bullets Boy, I'm leaving. Should I stay or evacuate during the Olympics? Well, I don't know. I'm not leaving. I mean, I think it's going to be congestion and stuff like that. I know people who left London during the London Olympics, but I think it'll be cool. I don't think you have to leave. Waito-san, what's your favorite vacation spot near Tokyo for a day trip? Shimoda. Also the most dangerous tsunami location in Japan. But it's got beaches that look like they should be in Bali. It's 2.5 hours train ride. Get a rental car when you get there. Great restaurants, great places to stay. It's affordable. They've got onsen. They've got beautiful beaches. For me, that is the best place in Japan to go for a day trip, and I would love to go back down there again sometime soon. So Shimoda at the bottom of the Izu Peninsula. Loving these questions, by the way. Thanks. Keep them coming. I'll keep doing these as long as you keep asking them. Who else we got here? We got really. Thank you for your input about Brexit. Yeah, both sides are getting more polarized. That's how I interpreted it, Quint. Yeah. Steve from Berkeley, could you link the article? Indeed, Steve from and good to see you, Steve from Berkeley. Quint, yeah, could you flip me the article maybe on Twitter or whatever? And remember, follow me on Twitter. Remember to like this video if you like these shows as well. They're good bit of positive, friendly encouragement. Please do like if you like. Kids Konto, were there mirrors on the ceiling? I obviously missed something there. Nothing wrong with that. Talking about hotel options, I see here. Tech Art 2, you read some books on how polarizing through algorithms were designed to upset people based on searches. Yeah, I think there's a lot of paranoia about algorithms. I don't think it makes commercial sense to have deliberately outrageous algorithms, but there again, I mean, the Google and Facebook ones are well known and people are skeptical of them. It's a really interesting area. It's certainly something that people probably need to understand a little bit better. We talk about the YouTube one all the time. I don't see a lot of sense in the YouTube one deliberately trying to radicalize people, for example, but there are clearly aspects of driving people towards content that will keep them engaged, that if you've got a predisposition towards radicalizing content, then it's going to drive you there. So yeah, I suppose it's something we need to understand better, and whether it's through regulation or whatever. But yeah, I do think it's that the current state of things is overstated. There's a lot of paranoia that a lot of big companies are just maliciously using our algorithms now. But I think the concern and the potential for it is legitimate. But yeah, that's it. I'm definitely not expertly or well read on it. TK Sam, they've moved the Olympics to Sapporo. No, they've moved the marathon to Sapporo. Read a paper, dude. It happened like last week. The Tokyo governor's been basically flipping the bird at the IOC all week. She's been making many harsh and sarcastic comments, including noting that the Tokyo Olympics will not pay for any events held in Sapporo, but the Japanese government had better chip in, because they're not going to get any money out of Tokyo for it. And why not just host them on the disputed Kuril Islands with Russia? That'll be cooler if they want cool weather. Host it in Siberia. Who gives a shit? She got kind of stroppy, which I kind of agreed with, even though I generally don't agree with her very much. Yes, indeed. Who else we got here? Any other topics? Tiko Sam, how fast do I think the population of foreigners is going to grow over the next 10, 20 years in Japan? It seems like such a big jump recently here in Tokyo. Yeah, I think it's going to continue. I mean, again, the labor shortage in Japan in the next 10 to 20 years is going to be 10 to 20 million people. Right now, the population of foreigners has jumped from 1 to 2.5 million in the country. Around Tokyo, I think the population in Tokyo is 1 million. But the labor shortage is going to be like 30 million. I don't think there are going to be 30 million foreigners, but I do think that the number of foreigners, particularly around Tokyo, I think it would not be strange if it jumped 10 to 15 million people. I wouldn't be unusual if I think 10% of Tokyo's population, well, depending on how you measure Tokyo, is a 30 million person city. So from that, 10 million would be too much, wouldn't it? But I think 5 million, I think like being a 20% sort of minority, like you get in more international cities, no question, Tokyo is going to become more like an international metropolitan city. So I think, yeah, the number's it's going to be more than double again in the next 10, 20 years. I mean, again, this is all going to be part of this whole, it's all linked together. How Japan's going to become an AI economy, how it's going to just, to some extent, it's going to deal with the population decline by just being more efficient using artificial intelligence and not, allowing jobs to sort of disappear and not replacing them. But otherwise, yeah, they're going to need people to work, and that's the only way it's going to get resolved. So, and of course Tokyo's going to continue sucking in people from other parts of Japan that are just going to clean out. So I guess that's where they're going to get the 10 or 15 million people that they need for Tokyo for the economic purposes. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 extra million foreigners, and the rest will be people from other parts of Japan. And half of rural Japan is just going to disappear. I think that's what's going to happen. That's my pull out of my ass theory on this. What else we got here? Quint Ranked. Sorry, no Twitter. Tried to post it here though. I didn't go through though. I don't message it to me. I will share the link if I can get hold of it. So yeah, or Facebook, or if you're connected with me anywhere else. But yeah, I'll happily share the link in the information below this video for people interested in it afterwards, since it does sound interesting. I can't really talk to it since I haven't read it. Any other comments or questions here? Scanning down in the US, the disinformation problem. People are talking about oyster season. I see, yes, just starting. Kaki fry all the way. Hiroshima kaki fry. Wow, Tiko Sam jamming with the questions. Down the bottom I see, maybe last question, then I'm going to do some music. Wow, we've actually gone over time. This is awesome. Okay, well, Tiko Sam, where do I see the next US election heading? Trump being elected again, probably new leader. Well, right now it looks like the US election is going to be Elizabeth Warren versus Trump. So you talk about a polarizing election. And what I think is, I think if it's Warren, I think Trump has a chance of winning for the same reasons he won before, which is that one, the Democrats don't understand why they lost yet, and the central fight, the red state mistrust of institutional party candidates and liberals, I think it isn't addressed, and Trump's going to be able to point to her as the worst nightmare of people who are afraid of liberals. But there again, I don't know that a central candidate, maybe someone more from the right wing of the Democrat Party might help to, help people see that, they've got a right wing nut job as president right now. But having effectively the most progressive, the most left wing, one of the most left wing candidates out in front for the Democrats, I think is going to gift the election to Trump. That's what I think. That's not a statement on whether I support her, whether I agree with her, or whether I think, from what I understand, she's very smart. I think she's a Harvard law professor. Seems to be a smart lady and everything, and would probably be a great president. But I think as a candidate, I think she's going to be the sort of candidate that Trump would want to go up against, because I think he'll have a better chance against someone like her. Now, that said, I don't really see. I like Buttigieg. I think he's kind of interesting. Yang is kind of interesting to me. But, I don't think Biden strikes me as a good candidate. Sanders and Warren strike me as candidates that, well, who knows? The whole country might swing radically the other way, but I don't see that happening. The infrastructure of a win like that isn't there, although I can see them getting the Democratic nomination, but I think that would be the Democrats condemning them to failure. So I don't really see a strong candidate. And honestly, I would take a horse's ass over the president, but I wonder if America would. So we'll see. I think that Trump has a greater chance than people in Japan or people in the coastal states in the US actually give him credit for, in spite of the outrageousness and illegality. The whole trying to blackmail Ukraine into giving dirt on a Democrat candidate. I mean, I think that the president can and should probably end up not just impeached, but I wonder if he could be actually put in jail while in office. And what would that do to the idea of polarizing politics? Once you start putting people in jail, that's how you get into an authoritarian cycle. So I think things are not looking good, but we'll see where the Democrats land first. So that's my thoughts on that. Quint Rankett, sorry, American labels don't make sense to me. Liberal, by the way, it means right winger in Australia and UK and Canada. Yeah, I'm using liberal in the American sense. How to a Republican, I know within the Democrats, the AOC and Warren call themselves the progressive Democrats and progressives, but from a Republican or general U.S. society perspective, they'd lump them all together, far leftists as being, if not socialists. Liberals, which to me is a complete misunderstanding of what liberal means, but it's the term that gets used in America, and that's where I'm using it from. Anyway, Nighttime World, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I mean, liberal outside of the US is literally is closer to what Americans think of as libertarian, except that liberals tend to be social. Socially, they tend to be small government, but specifically pro-business and pro-free trade, as well as pro-social, social liberalness, which actually is kind of funny because libertarians are often, they'll feign social libertarian, but they're often socially conservative, actually. But yes, they call themselves democratic socialists, but I believe that the group that Warren sort of identifies her with them, or is labeled within the Democrats, they call themselves progressives. But that's just a label for a sports team. I don't think that's a specific, honestly, that's just the group of the most left-wing people within the Democrats. And good luck to them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that sort of thing at all. In fact, this is the whole joke. The most left-wing people within the Democrats, within American politics, are still way to the right of almost any other country in the world. The idea that even Sanders coming in talking about his model for universal medical care is still nowhere near as government in control of anything as in Canada or New Zealand or Australia or Sweden or Britain. When Americans think that Sanders is a communist, hell, he would be more right-wing than the Conservative Party when it comes to things like healthcare, because he knows he can't sell it, and he's pro-gun, remember, as well. So American politics I find fascinating and crazy, and I'm so glad I don't have to worry about it except indirectly. And that's why I talk about Japan. So I was going to play a tune, but look at how far over time we are. I'm going to cut it off there, but it's great to see all of you guys, and I really like this interaction. This is actually, I should have less topics more often and do the show this way. So thank you again. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please remember to like if you liked, and check me out on Twitter. Message me on Twitter. You can connect with my stories during the week. Reach out anytime. See you same bat time, same bat channel next week. I will definitely take on board the feedback and contact Victor and say, hey, the masses have demanded that we must have 1.5 Ryoshis a month, and I agree that's something that we should try to get back on track and do. And have a good week, everybody. Good talking to you all, and peace. Yes, indeed. Okay, see you later.